Hi folks, and welcome to the latest installment of our 2021 Bronco Badlands Overland build out. We have a really cool project that we're going to start today. We were at the Overland Expo a few weeks ago and I checked out all the off-road lights, and these are the ones I decided on. These are the ARB Intensity Solis combination spot and flood kit. So we have one spot, one flood, and the wiring harness. These are the Solis 36s. We're going to unbox these. We're going to show you everything that's involved in this kit, and then we're going to do a custom install. As you can see, we've also ordered the black and the amber covers for these lights. They come with the clear covers, so now we have 3 covers that we can use on these lights. That is a 1x1 sheet of 1/4 inch thick 6061 T6 aluminum plate that we're going to use to make some standoff brackets. And over here we have a 2x2 piece of 3/16 inch Lawan plywood that we're going to use to make a pattern first before we do anything to the aluminum. So let me give you a shot here. Let me show you where we're going to mount these before we do the unboxing. You'll see these 2 bolts on top of the bumper, and then you have 2 in the front of the bumper. Those bolts were utilized if you ordered the factory brush guard on your Bronco when it was new. We're going to use these 2 attachment points right here on top, but we need to build or fabricate some brackets that bring the lights over a little bit towards the headlight and out away from the grill. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to use the factory mounting points right there. It should be a really nice clean install. So let's get to the unboxing of these huge 36 Solis Intensity driving lights. So this is the spotlight. You have your user guide. So this is our hardware kit with what it looks to be a Torx. This is a really nice heavy-duty cast aluminum bracket. Looks to be about 3/8 of an inch thick in places, maybe down to 3/16. Very nice, lots of adjustment after they're mounted. They give you these 2 trim pieces. You'll see those red pieces on each side of the lights. You can actually replace these with black. That's definitely what we're going to do. And something else we're going to do too, once we get these mounted up and all set, is we're going to change all of the silver hardware to either black titanium or black stainless. Even the screws that go the whole way around the perimeter of the light, we're going to change those to black. Wow, look at the size of that. I think is substantial. That's a substantial light right there. 36 LEDs, cast aluminum housing with cooling fins. We have a really nice heavy gauge lead and a weather pack or a Deutsch plug, whatever you prefer to call it, but that's a weather tight plug. Very nice. These are fairly hefty. We'll give you some specs on this light real quick. They are about 9 inches wide and almost 9 inches from top to bottom once they're mounted on the bracket. So they're a large light. And the reason I went with this large of a diameter of light is this actually matches the diameter of the factory Ford headlights. And that's the look I was going for, kind of an old school desert racing look. I just like the look of the big overland lights. So lifespan, 50,000 plus hours of LED life. Power draw is 165 watts. Current draw is 12.4 amps at 13.2 volts. The effective lumens for the spot is 9,546, and for the flood, 8,333 lumens for the flood. 5,700 Kelvin is the Keller temperature. 11 degree full beam with flood, 6 degree full beam with spot. The reason we went with a combination is that seems to be the hot setup. These are so big that you can do one of each and still be effective. So you're gonna get one that's gonna really reach out there with the spot. We're gonna put that one on the driver's side, and we're gonna put our flood on the passenger side to light up, you know, the side of the road a little bit more. So 6 degree full beam with the spot, 11 degree full beam with the flood. Those are the main specs. There's no weight on these. It doesn't list the weight where I'm looking right now, but if I had to guess, they're an easy 5 to 10 pounds a piece. It's pretty substantial, nice heavy light. That's why we went with the 1/4 inch aluminum 6061 plate, so we don't have any flex or vibration. So that's it for the light. That's what comes in the box. Next, we're going to check out the wiring harness and show you what you get with the wiring harness. Comes with your wiring diagram. Now we're going to wire these as intended to work in conjunction with our headlights. A lot of guys like to wire them separately. This model, these Solis lights, are unique in the fact that they come, this is a lot smaller than what I thought it was going to be from the pictures, but that's okay too. It's easier to find a place to put it. This is your on-off and your dimmer. This is a 5-position dimmer. These are so bright that in a lot of cases you'll want to dim these down so you're not blinded by reflections off of things. But that's your on-off and your dimmer. Now these should be, for the most part, plug and play. This is probably the harness that is to be used with your factory headlamps. Go in line. Not quite sure what this is yet. We'll find out. So these obviously go to each one for each light. It looks like they give you plenty of loom. Nice. We've got heat shrink tubing, bringing everything together. I'm just going to give you an estimate on how much. That's probably about 7 feet of loom from this point to where they come together to where they go into the back of the light. And the lead on the light's an easy 18 inches. So should be plenty for our application and most other applications also. Moving on down the loom. A lot of wires here. Wow, this is the lead right here that plugs into your on-off switch and dimmer. That's plenty. This will go in the cab. Obviously, this will go in the cab, and this nice connection for that. Let's see what else we have. I'm going to say that's probably a ground wire. Not sure yet what the orange wire is for, or where that lead goes. I think that goes into this, whatever that is. We don't know yet. We've got 4 different relays here that are fused. Yeah, we've got four separate fused relays, and our power wire looks like 2 power wires for 12 volt will go to your battery. And then, like I said, this is the ground. So a pretty substantial loom here, as you can see. We've got some, it's all covered in plastic anti-chafing gear, which is very nice. And looks like great quality. This particular kit, I ordered this from OK 4-wheel drive parts in New Jersey. OK 4-wheel drive was at Overland Expo East in Virginia a few weeks ago. I talked to those guys, really nice guys. And the reason I went back to them to order these, I did not buy these at the expo. I took some time after I got home to decide just exactly what lights I wanted for the Bronco. And the reason I bought them off of OK 4-wheel drive in New Jersey is because I try to support the vendors that come out to the shows and the expos. Because if we didn't have the vendors come to the expos, we wouldn't have an expo. And normally this kit retails for $723 before tax and shipping. I believe the price they gave me, all included to the door, was about $650. So I called them, talked to them, said, hey, checked you guys out at the expo. Is there anything you can do for me? Didn't really know what I wanted to buy at the time. And they kind of gave me their expo, their show price, which was really nice of them. And so I'll continue to support their business as long as they continue to support us, which they really do. They sell just about anything you could want for off-roading and overlanding. So that's what we have to work with. These do come in a smaller size, a 21, a few inches smaller in diameter. We decided to go with the big boys here, the 36 LEDs. These are really going to look great, especially I'm going to probably run the blackout lens covers most of the time. I think that's going to be a really good look for the Bronco. Amber for snow and fog, and you know, run the clears when you really want to throw some light out there. So we're going to get started with this custom install. The first thing we're going to do is cut us a piece of this Luan to rough size. We're going to leave it oversized. We're going to bolt it on. We're going to get our center line, and I'm going to show you how we find out exactly where we want to put these lights. So stay tuned. Thanks. So what we've done here is we've cut ourselves a 7-inch wide by 8-inch long piece of that 3/16 inch Luan, and we've bolted it to our mounting points. And then we set our light with the bracket on top of it and put it in position. And with a little bit of tracing and some other work, we've come up with this pattern. As you can see, we put a nice curvature on this side to give it some interest, and it kind of blends in with the curvature of the little bull bar on this winch kit. You see we've traced around to give ourselves some material the whole way around our mounting bolt, and we've just kind of connected the circles. And we've also took the light off of the bracket and set the bracket on there and marked for our holes, our mounting holes. Now, of course, you can use this method for any type of light that you want to mount, using the factory bumper and the factory mounting points. We positioned this, you can see this is our center line. And what I wanted the light to do is I wanted it to fall midway between the edge of our bar and the inner edge of our headlight. So when it's sitting up there, it's not blocking the headlight, it's not blocking the turn signal, any of the letters, and the bar is not blocking the light. So it's kind of a central position between the bar and the light. And it's going to come up to just below this turn signal bar. I think it's going to be a good look. So the next step is to take this off, get our jigsaw out, and cut this out and drill the holes and get it in the exact shape that we want it with our corners. And then we're going to be ready to trace it out onto our 6061 T6 aluminum plate. And then that's when the real fun begins. We get to play with some plate aluminum. 6061 machines pretty well. I've worked with it before and it should be no problem. And after we get that, or get these two brackets built out of aluminum, we're going to have it Cerakoted to match the color and the texture of the bumper. What's nice about this is we can use the same pattern for both sides of the bumper, left and right. You just flip it over. So it's coming along pretty well. That's what we have to work with. So there we have it. Our plywood pattern is all made and shaped, and we have it bolted back on, and we have our brackets just sitting on there for now to show you what that is going to look like. And I think that's going to be a nice little simple solution to utilize the stock mounting points on top of the bumper for some aftermarket lights. The next step is to unbolt this, trace it out on our aluminum plate, and start cutting that out. I don't have any high-tech metalworking equipment, no CNC machine, no plasma cutter, nothing like that. It's just going to be old school with a jigsaw with a bimetal blade on it. And I do have a large sanding disc that I use for the outside curves and edges, and we'll just have to use whatever we need to use to make that inside curve right there. But I'm real happy with that. That's a nice simple solution to utilize the factory mounting points on top of that bumper to mount yourself up some nice off-road lights. And I think this is going to look real good when we're done. So guys, the brackets are finished out of the 6061 T6 1/4-inch aluminum plate, and we're getting ready to take them over to the Cerakoter, but I wanted to show you what they look like before we Cerakote them. We ordered 7 different samples of blacks from Cerakote, and we settled on this Glacier Black. It's a really good match, as you can see, to the factory Ford black steel bumper. And I wanted just to give you a little bit of information on how I went about fabbing up these brackets. I don't have a lot of high-tech metalworking tools, but I do have some power tools. And to get the rough shape, I used a cutoff wheel on an angle grinder, a drill press to drill the holes, and I have a large disc sander that I use to keep my flat sides flat. And I mounted a drum sander in my drill press to work on that curvature, that radius there. I used just any old household item that had the right circumference to get that radius. And then a DA orbital sander with like a 150 grit to do some final sanding. I used the hand file to relieve the sharp edges, to round the edges a little bit. So that's how we made those. And over here, this is how the light bracket is going to sit on these mounts. You're not going to see a whole lot of the mount after the light's installed. That's kind of the idea. And the other big goal was to use the factory mounting points that are available on the stock bumper, and we were able to do that. So next step is get these back off and get them to the Cerakoter. So while we're waiting for our brackets to be Cerakoted, we're going to install the wiring loom for the ARB Solis lights. Now originally I had wanted these to work with the factory high beams. They would come on and off when the high beams came on and off. That's not possible with the 21 Broncos. These have, or at least the Badlands has LED headlights. And that positive high beam circuit is not readily available to the average person with average tools and average knowledge. I guess there's some way to decipher this and figure it out, but it's going to be very complicated. We're not going to be cutting into any headlight harnesses here on the Bronco. ARB supplies a couple adapters to go between your headlight harnesses and then plug into that, but this is what the plug looks like. I don't know how far back in time you have to go to find a vehicle that still uses this style plug. Maybe not too far back, I don't know. Definitely not going to work with the Bronco, either adapter that they send. So what we did is we cut the plug off the yellow and black wires. We combined the yellow signal wire with the orange illumination wire with a crimp and seal butt connector and put a little pigtail of yellow 16 gauge on. And we're going to put a weather pack connector on the end of this, and of course the other side of the weather pack will be connected to the Bronco, a little chassis ground, and also the wire from the aux switch. That will be our master signal wire. The aux switch will be the master, and then in turn we'll still have the dash mounted ARB touchpad dimmer. So that's the way I believe you have to do it with this Bronco. You're not going to get it to work with the high beams. Another thing we did is these fuse holders. I think I mentioned that these were a combination relay fuse holder. I think I was wrong. These are just fuse holders, I'm pretty sure. These are stackable, as you can see. So we just need one mounting location for those, and I've got that figured out, and they're going to be very accessible. I used a small zip tie to bind those together so they can't move around. They just kind of nest against each other. And the rest of the loom is pretty straightforward. You have these positives go to your battery. The negatives go to a chassis. This wire goes to your touchpad lead. And of course, we explained what we're doing with these wires. So once we get this installed, we're going to show you where we mounted everything and how we wired it. And it should work well. So that's what's going on. Stay tuned for the next step. Thank you. So the next step after the crimp and seal butt connector is we put a little piece of heat shrink tubing on that to really seal it up. I like all the heat shrink products, the butt connectors and the tubing. I think it does a really nice job of keeping moisture out and keeping your connections nice and neat. Okay guys, we've got our wire just about complete here. We're finishing up with a weather pack connector. As you can see, we've put a piece of loom, plastic wire loom, over our butt connector, and then we've gone ahead and put another piece of heat shrink tubing over that. And we've got our weather pack. Let's see if we can focus here. We've got our weather pack terminals installed on the ends of our wires. As you can see, one of the seals is a different color. That's because the insulation is a little thinner on the ground wire, and you want those baffle seals to be tight on the wire. So they come in 3 different sizes for different size wire gauges and insulation. So we've got those installed. As you can see, they crimp on to the ends of the wire, both the terminal and the baffle.
It helps if you have a pair of special crimping pliers for the weather pack terminals. They're not hard to put on, but they're small, so you have to pay attention to what you're doing to get a good crimp, and it really does help to have those pliers, those special crimping pliers for these terminals. We're going to set the camera up. We're going to show you how that this attaches to those. They just snap in, and then we close the rear of the cover, and then this end of the wire is going to be complete. So we'll try to set this up so you can see what we're doing here. So they just slide in and push them till they click. And then you push the rear of the cover closed. And it's as simple as that. Now you have a really nice weather pack plug. So if you want to remove these, you don't have to cut any wires. Just unplug it. And that's a nice, I call this a 2-gang weather pack terminal plug. They're not expensive, the parts are cheap. And you can get, I believe, a single up to a 6-gang on these. And they make the terminals for different size wire gauges also. We're working with 16 gauge here, mostly on these wires. And it gives you a really nice, neat, professional, factory looking job. So as you can see, we're all sealed in a loom. So the next step is to start installing this loom on the Bronco. And once we get everything in place, we're going to go over all the locations where we put everything and where we attached everything to and how we ran our wires. So stay tuned for that. Okay guys, one of the things on this project that is not so straightforward is this is the connector for the ARB touchpad on-off switch. There's a flat cord attached to it. You need to get this from the engine compartment into the cab. Now, on the 2021 Bronco, there was a large rubber grommet that one of the main harnesses passes through. It is to the, looking at the firewall, it is to the right and below the brake booster. It's large, round, made out of rubber. You can't miss it. What I did was I took a utility knife, made a flat cut on both sides of the grommet, both in the engine compartment and in the cab. It's a double wall grommet, so you're gonna have to cut both walls, inside and outside of the cab. I took a very stiff piece of metal rod, taped it to the connector, and this is what I'm going to use to push this connector through both cuts that I've made in the rubber grommet. Now, you can do an X cut, or you can do a flat cut, a large flat cut. I did an X cut on one side and a flat cut on the inside. The firewall side seems to be a little stiffer. And I sprayed a little silicone on the grommet also to help it pass through the cuts a little bit easier. So this is actually one of the first steps I'm doing, because I'm going to be mounting some of the wiring up here in the corner, and I needed the room to cut the grommet and get this through. So, and this is kind of one of the trickier parts of this installation. It's not difficult, but this is the easiest way that I've found that you're going to be able to do this. So we're going to push this through, and we're going to move on with the installation. But this is a little tip for you. So I've got good news on this installation. I've discovered how to gain access to the backside of this trim piece. So you can drill a hole, half-inch hole, and get your connector through and mount this so you don't have any visible wires. I discovered this on crutchfieldelectronics.com. They took one of these Broncos apart and they explain how to take these some of these interior pieces apart so you can gain access to this area right here. This is going to give us a neat install once everything's back together. I've left all the pieces off so you can see what you have to do. And so I'm going to show you what you need to do right now. I'm not going to explain exactly how you do it. If you go to Crutchfield and search Bronco, new Bronco, the instructions are there. It's very simple, a couple small screws and some clips, and you can do a real neat custom install. So we're going to start with the passenger side. The first thing you have to do is remove your glove box, and that'll give you access to this screw that goes in right there. You remove that screw. That's it for the passenger side. On the driver's side, there's this panel that folds down. There's just a series of clips, 6, 7, 8 clips that hold that panel in place, and that just hinges down out of the way. And again, there's a screw on this side. See if we can get to it. And that goes in right there. There's a screw right there you'll see. And the goal is to pull out your entire HVAC control, and that pulls straight out. There's 8 clips. After you take those 2 screws out that I mentioned, there's 8 clips. It pulls straight out this way. There's 3 plugs that unplug, and that will give you access. As you can see, it's tight, but you can get up in here behind this gray panel, drill your hole, and work your connector down through there. And it's going to give you a really custom factory looking install with no visible wires. Real happy to share that with you. So we're going to get this back together, and then as we move into nightfall here, I'm going to get the Bronco out and I'm going to give you a demonstration of these ARB Solis lights. I think you're going to be impressed. Okay, so we just finished the installation of the wiring harness for the ARB Solis lights, and I'm going to use a pointer and give you a rundown where I chose to install everything on the 2021 Bronco. The first thing I did was find a suitable location for the 4 fuse blocks that come with the harness. You remember earlier I showed you how you could stack those. I utilized a factory threaded mounting point that was unused on this flange, so that made a great spot to mount these fuses. They're easily accessible when you open the hood, and they're near the other fuses right here in the engine compartment. The black wire that comes off of this mounting point that I used, that goes to our weather pack fitting to pick up a ground for the black wire that was with the yellow wire that we had to cut the plug off to do our own custom installation. Here's the weather pack plug that is zip tied to the factory harness. So we have the yellow wire coming from the #1 aux switch and the black wire that goes to this mounting point on one side of the plug, and on the other side of the plug is our factory harness with the yellow and black wire. So that was a good location for that. I did show you a shot of that completed. I ended up shortening that. That was too long. I didn't like it, so we took a good 6-8 inches off of that. So that's where that plug is, and that's easily accessible if you need to take the harness out. Right here is our 2 chassis ground wires from the ARB harness, and we utilized a factory chassis ground point right in this area, so that worked out well. So we've got our fuses, our chassis ground for our black wire, chassis ground for our other 2 chassis ground wires, our weather pack, and then the bulk of the harness is snakes along under this fuse box and comes up to our 2 positive wires come up to here, and as you can see on the Bronco, Ford gives you a lot of 12 volt positive mounting points. The plugs and the wires that go to the lights themselves go underneath the battery, and I zip tied them to the factory harness. I think you can maybe see them right there. There's the looms, and I zip tied them to the factory harness, and one of them comes out to here. I'll show you that in a minute where I have them temporarily. And this harness, here's a better shot here. As you can see, this harness runs right across the full length here, and it's attached to the chassis, and that's a good mounting point. So these are zip tied to that factory harness, and any excess, you're going to have excess. I just folded it up, as you can see, and zip tied it. And so that's the wiring harness install. Not too difficult, not too complicated. Take your time, make it neat, and you'll be fine. Okay guys, well now finally we're getting to the fun part where we install the lights on the Bronco. A lot of preliminary work here, but it's starting to pay off. We got our brackets back from the Cerakoter today, and I want to give a shout out to Base Camp Guns in Martinsburg, Pennsylvania. If you live in the central Pennsylvania area and you're interested in having some Cerakoting done, I highly recommend Base Camp Guns in Martinsburg. Their prices are reasonable, and I think they do a great job. So those are our Cerakoted brackets installed. Now I cleaned the threads on the factory Torx bolts very well, cleaned them up, and I used blue medium strength Loctite and torqued them to a pretty good spec. I didn't use a torque wrench, but they're tight, and so you want to let those set up a little bit to let the Loctite set up before you hit the road. But I think we're going to be fine. Those are 8mm bolts, a decent size, so we should be good to go once that Loctite sets up. So earlier I mentioned about I wanted to use all black hardware. Our hardware from Bellmetric came in the other day, and I want to show you that, show you what we have here. Now this is all stainless steel. All this hardware is stainless steel. So we have 8x30 Torx tamper-proof. The factory hardware from ARB, it uses these tamper-proof screws to mount the lights to the brackets. We're actually going to use the same fastener for everything. We're going to use these to mount the brackets to the brackets that we made, and we're going to use them to mount the lights to the brackets. So those are stainless steel 125 by 30 Torx tamper-proofs. These little 5mm, these black 5mm Allen head cap screws, we're actually going to use these to change the little 5s that surround the ARB lights. They're silver now. We're going to change them to black. We're really going to black these things out. These are kind of cool. These are 8125 stainless steel black oxide coated flange nylocks. So these have the little blue nylon in there, and they're flanged, which is nice, and they're stainless steel. We have an assortment of washers here. We have 8mm fenders, just regular 8mm washers, and then these are what Bellmetric calls a Bellevue washer. This is a stainless steel black oxide coated. It's concave, convex, depending on how you're looking at it. But this is a takes the place of your split lock washer. These are a serrated concave lock washer. So we're going to use those also in this setup. So it's going to be kind of cool, all blacked out hardware, stainless steel, black oxide coating. Normally black oxide, not a fan of on regular steel because, you know, I've had experience where the black oxide doesn't really last that long against the weather on steel. I expect this to be somewhat better on the stainless steel. We're going to find out. It should not get any rust, that's for sure. And we'll see how the coating holds up. So there you go. There's our new hardware. We've got our brackets mounted to the Bronco, and it's time to start putting this together. So here's the completed installation, and I got to tell you, I'm pretty happy with it. I was kind of going for the old school desert racer overland look with the big round lights. I think they go well with the round headlights of the Bronco. I'll give you a shot of what you can see of the brackets. Nice and sturdy, 1/4 inch 6061 plate aluminum for the brackets. And I'm glad I went with the 1/4 inch thickness over the 3/16. These are a substantial light. Not overly heavy, but there's definitely some weight to them. And they have a nice big surface for the mounting bracket. There's a shot of the black stainless tamper-proof Torx bolts. All of the hardware is black coated stainless on these. You can kind of see we even did the black perimeter screws that hold the bezels on. We'll show you what these look like. These are obviously the clear covers. We have black and amber. We're going to show you what they look like with both the black and amber lens covers on. And like I said, originally I wanted these to work with the high beams, but I'm happy with the way we wired them. We have them wired to the aux switch for a master, and then the ARB touchpad for on, off, and dim. So it's going to work out well. There are times, say like when you're in fog or snow, and you have the amber lens covers on, you don't want your high beams on. You're going to want your low beams on with these, with the amber covers. So all in all, I think a pretty successful project. That definitely should cover it for the off-road lights. We shouldn't need anything more. And I kind of like that, just have two big lights and be two big lights and we're done. They're tucked in pretty tight to the grill, as tight as we're going to want to go. You want to leave a little gap so you can wash the truck. I think it's a pretty nice package. Old school. Nothing hidden here, that's for sure. I think it gives it a nice utilitarian look also. So we're going to show you what these look like with both the amber and then the black covers. So those are your ambers. Those will be great for fog, snow, conditions like that. Very nice. I think they look good. So these are the black covers, and I think they blend real well with all the black on the Bronco, and gives it kind of an understated look. You know, they don't stick out very much. And I'll probably run these, you know, on a daily basis. This is what I'll keep on most of the time. All right, so we're on an old haul road not far from my home, and so we shouldn't bother anybody with this light test tonight. We'll see what happens. Right now what you're looking at is the stock Bronco headlights with the high beams on. I've got the amber lenses on the ARB Solis 36s, And we're going to turn those on, and we're going to start on the lowest setting. There's 5 settings. So that's on low with the amber. And we're going to go to the next level. And the first level is actually can be used around town, I believe, for just like a daytime running light. So this is the 3rd level, 4th level, and the 5th level. And we'll turn them off real quick. We'll turn them back on real quick with the 5th level. I think these could use adjusted a little bit, maybe move them up just a hair. Again, we have the spot on the driver's side and the floodlight on the passenger side. And I think if they were reversed, this little shrub here on the right, we would probably be burning that down. So I'm going to take the ambers off, and we'll see what the clear looks like. All right, so we've got the amber lenses off. Going to see what these clears look like again. We're going to start at the lowest level. Next level, 3rd level, 4th level, and the 5th level. Wow, okay. Yeah, I mean, they're definitely getting out there. We're going to turn them off real quick. Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. There's a difference there. I think we could probably raise them up a hair, especially the spot on the left. We'll see, but definitely. And that's with high beams. We'll turn the high beams off. Yeah, big difference. Well, I hope these last a long time. That was a fun install. Thanks for checking out the video. If you would like to subscribe, give me a thumbs up. I'm gonna have a lot more content, we hope. So see ya. Thanks.